Welcome into the Hot Read Podcast for Friday, June the 7th. I'm your host, Easton Freeze, Director of Published Content here at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. We're also brought to you by the 440 Podcast Network. You can follow me on social media at Easton Freeze. I am joined, as always, by producer JT, who you can follow on social media at JT_Ruhnke. JT, how are we doing?
I'm good. On the day of this podcast recording on the 7th, it is my dad's birthday. So, happy birthday, Dad.
Happy
Shout
birthday
out
to the doc. How about
to the
that?
doc. Yes,
Doc
for
Ruhnke.
sure. But here on Thursday, I can't say that I'm doing as well or experiencing as many emotions or interesting things that happened to me today as I think you are for sure. And I think that
Weird day
you
today.
have
Strange day.
had a lot
Manner day.
a big weirder day than I did. Yes.
Yeah, weird day for me. I woke up this morning. There's a lot of taco discourse. This discussion, you got to really be a fan of the Hot Read podcast to know what this is even about. We're not going to get into it today, but a lot of debate over how I eat my tacos, underhanded versus overhand technique.
Yes. You're still wrong about that.
I'm in the minority. It is never easy to be the correct minority on an issue, but I am here and I am strong, and there are dozens of us. That we'll save that discussion for another day. That was my morning on Twitter, debating with people on how you eat a taco. Then this afternoon I went to Titans minicamp, mandatory minicamp. We had the last of 3 days for the media, at least, out there today. Got a lot of thoughts from that we're going to go through today. But we ended the camp with I didn't mean to be a part of today's camp storylines. And then at the end, I ended up being one, as reported by my friend Jim Wyatt over at with the Titans, writing with the Titans on the Tennessee Titans website as of this afternoon. His final note from today's mini camp reads as follows. Reporter Easton Freeze, host of the Hot Read podcast and contributor for BroadwaySportsMedia.com, had his Jack Dundee moment in Thursday's session. If you're not familiar with Dundee, played by Robin Williams in The Best of Times, then you're probably not as old as I am, but you need to check out the movie. It's an underrated sports movie from 1986 and one of my all-time favorites. I won't ruin the movie, but Freeze, standing on the sideline, had his big chance in practice today when a Will Levis pass sailed his direction. Freeze attempted to catch it, but the ball bounced off of him in front of everyone, media, fans, and the entire team, who promptly booed him. Dr. Death was nowhere in sight. Freeze, like Dundee, got another chance. He just didn't have to wait as long. And this time, Freeze hauled it in. Everyone cheered. It was a pretty entertaining moment on the final day of this week's minicamp. Let me explain what happened, because no one, I hope the Titans, I know they have the footage. They at least have the all-22 practice footage of this happening. And I hope that they decide to release it, even if it's just to me in a DM. If you're listening, those of you in Titans media, hit your boy up. I want this footage. You can delete the footage of me dropping the first one, but send me the one of me catching the second one.
Send me the footage of him dropping it to me. You can send the one that he catches to Easton, but send the drop footage to me for sure.
Listen, I entered this week of minicamp not expecting to catch any passes from anybody out there. And then if you listen to our Tuesday episode, Tajay threw me the ball on Tuesday, and then today Will threw me the ball, and then today Malik threw me the ball. I guess I'm just a popular target on the sidelines. I'm not out there on the field. But here's what actually happened. It was the last drill of the day. We're standing on the sidelines like we always are, on the right-hand sidelines. The team is lined up, offense and defense lined up on like their own 15-ish yard line. I'm standing at roughly the 40 or 50 yard line. So I'm 30 to 40 yards away. And I don't know. I was like halfway on my phone, halfway not paying attention. We're about to wrap up. We're about to walk over and do the press conference with Brian Callahan. And they're running a bunch of situational stuff today, which, again, when we get to that actual portion of today's show that you care about the Titans, I'll explain what they did because it was kind of interesting what they went through today. But I'm standing on the sideline, and the situation, whatever they were doing, called for the quarterback throwing it away very quickly and throwing it out of bounds very quickly downfield. I don't really know what was going on, but that's what happened. And usually we occasionally have balls come our way or bounce our way on the sidelines, and we step out of the way, and the Titans, the training staff or the guys that are out there, the coaches, the helpful guys that are like moving equipment around and passing the ball around and doing that stuff. They grab the ball, they keep it in play, they do what they're doing. And we step out of the way. We occasionally stop it, toss it to the guy, whatever, the ball boy. This one was thrown right at me, and it was essentially it was like a punt trajectory. Will Levis, big arm, strong guy, threw it about 30, 40 yards downfield, high arcing pass out of bounds right at me. And the guys that I'm sitting around, Austin Stanley with A to Z and Nick Suss and Tobias, and like they kind of step out of the way like we usually do. And I I'm debating, like, should I try to catch this to just stop it? Because it's going to take a big bounce and then bounce into the fans behind us. And I could not, frankly, I didn't decide until it was too late whether or not I was going to catch this ball. Like, it was within, a 2-second frame. I was like, fine, I'll try to catch it. And by the time I committed to catching it, the ball was on me, and I tried to catch, like, I did not position myself well. It was like, you're playing, but you get onto me in rec league softball all the time, JT. It's like, you got to get in front of the ball. You can't, none of this. Reach into your side to get that was me trying to catch this ball. It was like out into the side, and it went right through my hands. And the entire team and everyone in attendance violently starts booing me, as I deserve, for not catching the ball. And like every other media guy, Kaharski's like, Easton, step forward, wave, let everybody know who it was that dropped that ball. Up, Paul. And everyone around me kind of takes a step back, and I wave as sheepishly, yeah, that was me. And then everyone on the team starts like, yeah, I hear the guys yelling, one more chance, last chance. And then I realized Malik Willis is coming in to run the same whatever they were running. And so he lines up, and I go, all right, fine, I'll catch this one. I put my phone in my pocket. I step up. I'm going to catch this one and redeem myself. This one was much lower arc of a pass. Again, it's still 30, 40-yard pass, but it's not like a punt trajectory, not straight up in the air. And it's also like out on the field. Like, I don't know if he was not aiming for me actually, or it was just like a bad pass. Like, the Levis one was right on me. I did not have to move. The Malik one, I even hesitated then because I'm like, can I run onto the field during practice to make this catch? Like, it's clear that everyone wants me to make the catch, but should I? And then I ran, and in a running attempt, caught the ball. Very much a body catch, as Brian Callahan described it afterwards. We had the footage of that, JT, immediately after this catch, and everyone cheering me on. Mason Kinsey there to congratulate me. I hand him the ball. Brian Callahan coached me up a little bit, gave a review at the top of the press conference after today's practice. Here's what he had to say about my redemption.
Yeah. Look, we got those jugs machines over there. 3 of them. They're open. You can get on them if you want to. Okay.
Kind of like the hands down.
Yeah, little really body catch, what we call body catch.
But just try not to make the same mistake twice. Make one mistake, learn, move on, improve.
Hell of a job.
Thank you.
And then Austin Stanley brought this up when we were talking to Cheeto Awuzie, trying to like do important things. He felt like it was necessary for us to talk about, again, me muffing the first catch. Here's the NFL veteran scouting report of my athleticism, according to Cheeto Awuzie.
7 period in
Play, support play, and but he was able to redeem himself, so got a little bit of athleticism, I guess.
Poor play.
But
poor play, but
that's not the important part. A little bit of athleticism, I guess, which I will take. I'll take that. Listen,
take that from Cheeto. I guess. Hey,
my athleticism background is like church league basketball, church league flag football, Civitan baseball, right? Like local middle school, like Brentwood Blaze football for a couple years. Like I was never like on the high school football team guy. That was not me. So I'll take a little bit of athleticism coming from the mouths of NFL players. But you're right that you were criticizing me for making a body catch. Some of the players walking off after were telling me like, hey, get those hands, triangle, catch the ball. Yep. I understand that. It was hot out there. It was sweaty. I will contend again that the second catch was harder to make because I had to run to catch it. I had an entire NFL football team watching me saying, last chance, you better catch it. I know that I will be run out of town physically if I do not catch this attempt. An NFL team is orienting practice to give me another chance to catch a football. I better catch the freaking ball. I was not going to risk another ball going through my hands by trying to make an impressive hands catch. You just a little body catch never hurt anybody. There might be a bruise on my chest now from it because the ball hit me pretty hard, but it was worth it, I think. So I think I redeemed myself appropriately.
Probably, it would have been. I agree. It was embarrassing to miss it once. It would have been twice as embarrassing we probably wouldn't even be doing a podcast today. I'd have to change careers.
I'd have to do something else. It would have been a disaster. It would have been so bad.
Now,
none of these players or coaches would have ever talked to me again. I'd be like a ghost. I'd ask a question. They'd be like, sorry, you dropped that pass one time. I'm not answering your question.
See, I would have just caught the first one, and then we wouldn't have had this discussion. I think
I have been kicking myself all day. The number of people that have texted me out of the woodwork. Because it's on the Titans website. People are tweeting about it. They're like, hey, I heard you dropped a catch today at NFL practice. Yeah, man, I did. First of all, okay, if you told high school Easton that he would be a news item after an NFL practice one day, he would have so many questions. But you're bearing the lead. I caught the other one, and when I committed to, I'm kicking myself, frankly, because if I had just dropped it, like just full effort and dropped it anyways, I would own that. But this is why I want the video so badly, because you can see in my body language that I don't decide to try to catch this ball until it is too late to try to catch this ball. And I'm in a poor position, and it was a focus drop. I went 2 for 3 this week at NFL practice on catches, and my one drop was a focus drop. I prefer to frame it as Easton Freeze at today's Tennessee Titans mandatory minicamp practice, only one drop amongst many players who only had one or fewer drops. That's how I think it should be framed.
That's fair. But I mean, Austin Stanley over at A to Z, was first with the source calling it a brutal drop. And I think that just
brutal is an outrageous
precedent
word.
For the
it's
day,
a very strong word. And
Derek
again,
says,
this is what I hate, is that it's all word of mouth, as Derek
correct.
And John in the comments are saying. It's all word of mouth. Everybody, we need the footage. I need the footage to redeem myself. I think the second catch was impressive enough to be a full redemption for the first focus drop. And so Titans, which camera am I? Right here. I need you to release this footage, even if it's grainy all 22 footage from the crane camera. We need the footage. Please do the right thing and send it to me, and delete the drop footage. Thank you. Okay. Stoney, here's a sneak peek. If you're a big fan of like the non-football lore on this podcast and the shenanigans we get up to, JT and I and Stoney and Zach have all agreed when we're running out of ideas in early July, we are going to do a group podcast. The topic is TBD. We may just riff on whatever we find interesting and funny for an hour, but we're going to be doing it from somewhere that serves both hot dogs and tacos whilst eating them, and probably having that debate all over again. So if you're looking for entertainment midsummer, that's probably what we're going to be doing. Okay.
The last thing I'm going to say is that
Sure.
Derek says a lot of us regular fans would pay money to have QB1 throw us a pass. If he does throw it to you, you catch it. But
and
John
JT,
also says 33% drop rate, which
focus drop.
That's around a Quentin Johnston drop rate.
No, it's an insufficient sample size is what it is.
Okay.
It's an insufficient sample size. It was a cool moment.
That's 13 minutes of
I know. It was a cool moment, and I appreciate the press, and it was cool. But we do have actual interesting football things to talk about today. So as JT was alluding to, we are officially over our time allotted for Easton Titans glory moment. We can get to some actual review of the past 3 days. JT, you were there for 2 of them, so I'm going to lean on you for some of these takes, but a lot to talk about today. Some interesting answers to some questions today on Will Levis and his timing, the importance of timing in this offense, him improving on his timing from the way that he operated last year. I have some thoughts on that. Going to go over just his overall review, like what my review of him from this week was, and where I think there needs to be some significant changes from what we see from him when we get to August. Talk about some skill position guys. Got some video to show you from yesterday's camp where we got a lot of end zone angles on those guys making catches, and one receiver in particular who deserves some flowers, at least for the past 3 days. We have been low on him on this show, but he has been looking the part, and so we'll talk a little bit about him. He is a rookie 6th round pick. If you can guess who I'm alluding to, that is the most obvious clue I can give you. Then the offensive line. We got some footage from them yesterday and today. Want to talk about J.C. Latham, who was at the podium. Some one in particular, really fantastic answer from him about where he gets his work ethic from, why he works the way that he does, and how long he's been working as hard as he has. So some things on that, as well as he bust into our Brian Callahan press conference today to ask a question that may or may not have gotten himself in a little bit of trouble. So we'll get to that in a little bit. And then some thoughts on the defense. Press coverage, a big topic yesterday and today. Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson spoke to us yesterday morning about just how much this team's going to be playing press man coverage this year. A significant difference I think Titans fans will see in that department from what you've gotten accustomed to the past 5, 6, 7+ years. And then we'll wrap up with one more clip from Darnell Wilson on the topic of pass rushing, and Harold Landry yesterday at the podium, one clip from him on the topic of the Titans pass rush that I think you'll find interesting. So a ton to get to today, but before we get to any of it, if you're watching with us live, we appreciate you being here. And thank you for suffering a couple of fools for the past 20 or so minutes here on the live stream. We are now going to get to some Titans topics. Do us a favor, though, and join us live on Broadway Sports Media, the YouTube channel. Find us over there, Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. You will find this live stream, and you can join the comment section with Stoney and Derek and John and Shrike and the Doc, all with us. We appreciate you guys being a part of today's conversation. I want to hear your hottest takes from this week, your concerns, your questions, your queries, everything in your mind regarding the Tennessee Titans. Drop it on us in the comments, and we will discuss it all. While you're there, make sure you're subscribed. Our subscriber count continues to grow. We appreciate you guys joining us over there. A ton of content besides just the live stream on Broadway Sports Media's YouTube page. JT and I have been working overtime the past couple of weeks to really ramp up our content over there. A lot of clips from the show, highlights, all the shorts in the short section from training camp videos of those guys, all the stuff we're showing to you on the show here. The video footage is over there in the short section, so you can check it all out at Broadway Sports Media on YouTube. Hit like on all the videos that you happen to like. Okay, JT, let's start with the topic of Will Levis and the topic of timing. A really interesting article from Nate Tice over with Yahoo Sports came out this morning. He has alluded to on his Twitter account the past couple of days that he has been studying Will Levis and the Titans offense last year and writing this article on what Will Levis's year 2 could potentially look like. And he does, as he always does, Nate is very, very good at this, a really good job doing a sober, in-depth, deep dive into not just the player, but the footage, the tape study, examples of the things that he's talking about on tape, and breaking down, as a former quarterback himself, Nate, breaking down what he's seeing, what he's doing, what he needs to improve, and what he's very good at. And he's complimentary along all of the typical lines, right? He's got an incredible arm. He's more mobile than people give him credit for. He's a gamer. He's not afraid to shoot downfield regularly. He's more accurate than people give him credit for. All of these things. But the topic that was in that, and I've heard a couple of times that I don't think we've touched on really in name on this show that I want to talk about today, is timing. And the way that last year, and you don't have to be a genius, you don't have to be a pro-level scout to have seen this last year, there were times that Will Levis stood in the pocket and pretty clearly held on to the ball a tick or 2 ticks longer than he should have. A little bit late on a throw, not letting it rip quite on time. And many times he made up for that because he's got a stupid arm. He's got outrageous arm arrogance. It's wicked how fast he can put the ball on you. There was a clip that Nate Tice put out in his film study from the Tampa Bay game where it was a Chig route where he sits down right in the middle of the field, right across the end zone line. Levis sees him, fires it in there, really tight window at a jillion billion miles an hour. It basically blows Chig's hands clean off of his arms, and it's a drop. And it's like an outrageously quick throw from a base where there's very little windup. The velocity is crazy. That's the kind of thing that Levis was doing last year, and he can do that, and that's a good thing. It's kind of a blessing and a curse that you can make up for shortcomings from a processing and a timing standpoint with outrageous, stupid arm arrogance. But ideally, that's not the way you want to operate. And results may vary when that's the way that you're conducting yourself on the football field. And so I asked Brian Callahan, his head coach, today, I said, essentially what I just told you. He makes up for some timing issues with some arm arrogance that he has. I'm sure that's not the way that you guys are wanting to operate. And so what are you guys doing to improve his timing, get him on time within this new offense, and how is that coming along? Here is what Brian Callahan had to say.
There's some timing things, like, for example, yesterday in the red zone, it might have been like the first or second time he might have repped a particular play. So it's all very new. And he was probably late on 2 or 3 throws down there on some new concepts that he hadn't banked the reps on. And so the hope is that you point it out the first time and you say, this is the timing he needs to be on. He sees where the window is when the window is open. And then you keep working on that and you keep pushing that timing, because everything about how you play football in the NFL at the quarterback spot in the drop back game is very, very heavily timing based, and your feet got to be right. The processing of what you see has to happen fast, and you got to trust what you see when you make the throw. It's, the old adage, a lot of quarterbacks try to wait to see guys come open, and you're trying to anticipate when they're going to be open, and that's a maturation process for a quarterback. And so the fun part is, like, he sees it and he understands it when it's not exactly right, and then he usually makes an adjustment the next time out. And so you take a red zone play, for example, the first day he runs it, maybe it's not great and the timing's not where you want it to be, and then we've repped it 4, 5, 6 more times before the season starts, and now you start to feel that timing, and he starts to feel it and see it. It's a rep thing. It's an experience process, and so that part's fun. I mean, that's the coaching part for me. That's where I enjoy.
And that makes a lot of sense. We heard from Tyler Boyd in the scrum availability with him right after this about, and this wasn't even along the lines of this questioning. He kind of just brought it up. Hey, the timing is paramount in this offense. It is so important. This offense does not operate the way it's supposed to unless everything is on time. And if you watched Joe Burrow and the Brian Callahan Bengals offenses the past couple of years, JT, you can attest to this. It is a timing and rhythm based offense. They're capable of taking the top off and making explosive plays, but the way that they really killed teams was they can dink and dunk you till the cows come home. They will go up and down the field, slicing you to death with schemed looks that require precision placement, precision timing, and there's really nothing you can do about that. That's kind of one of Joe Burrow's superpowers. That's what has made that offense so potent in recent years. That's what they're trying to do here in Tennessee, and that's going to require Will Levis's timing to improve.
Yeah, I think for sure that timing is the biggest thing. And that's something what Brian kind of attests to right there is kind of the struggles that he had yesterday. I think it was widely reported that yesterday was not Will Levis's best day, especially.
I heard he threw a ball in the lake. That's what I was told.
He did do that. And he also,
but he didn't though. Let's not further propagate this. He threw a ball in the short area by the lake that bounced.
Over the fence, though, which is
I don't know if people know, football's not round. They sometimes take big old hops when they hit the ground. Jumped the fence and somehow it did end up in the lake. But he did not sail a ball 40 yards over a dude's head and put it in the lake. Let's make that clear.
I mean,
as some usual suspects have been pushing.
The testament, though, to how strong his arm is, though, because that fence isn't small. It's not like you're at your like neighborhood pool and you like accidentally.
No, it's like a borderline prison fence, right? It's like a prison. It's like an 8-10 footer with some barbed wire on the top. Yeah, no, it's a big boy fence.
Yeah, it is a big boy fence. But like to that point, like Will Levis still able to. He misses it. It comes screaming in and it bounces over the fence like that. He also does get picked off by Jack Gibbons, which the Titans did post that yesterday. They put that on the internet. Which is maybe not the best. Good look for Jack Gibbons in shorts. Not a great look
for Jack Gibbons. The biggest for Jack Gibbons. Yeah.
I think,
but it's over. I'm afraid these are the rules. It's over.
The biggest thing,
Will Levis, pack it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Will Levis did, from what you all saw today, did look a lot better, was able to bounce back today in those drills. And yesterday as well. Those 7-on-7 drills are not offensive friendly. And what Brian is talking to there as well, just some things that he hasn't banked the reps there. We were going to see that, his first or second time going through some of those design plays, probably not going to work out the best. And we just happened to see him go through those plays the first couple times. And I'm sure that when we get, with this 6 weeks of really off season, finally for these guys, I'm sure Will Levis is going to put in the work and finally have those reps and be able to put it together. And I'm sure when we come around to minicamp, or not minicamp, but training camp, I think we'll see a lot more, finely tuned Will Levis.
And I'm glad you steered this in the direction of like what we don't know. We're missing some information because that's a big point I'm about to make. But yes, we can go ahead and take it there. I wanted to do an honest assessment of what Will Levis's week has looked like. And I wanted to run this, not run it by you, JT, but kind of get your opinion and see if it matches mine, because we were talking about this in the press corps, walking back up to the media room after practice concluded and after media availability concluded. And it's like, what do you make of this week from Will Levis? And in terms of how is it different looking from what was going on last year? How he looked at in similar situations on the practice field last year? It's not a Vrabel practice in the sense that there's a lot less running. It's much more pass heavy. We talked about that from really day one of this month's festivities. It's like, hey, they're passing the ball a lot more. Yes, but is it a ton of explosive plays even today when the offense was operating much more smoothly than it was yesterday? Not really. And here's the bottom line. I mentioned the usual suspects a moment ago, JT. The usual suspects. This is going to be the running line on a lot of the certain shows and publications around town that love to eat the let us throw a ball in the lake crowd. This is what they're going to run with today. It's going to be Mason Rudolph was significantly better than Will Levis on the last day of minicamp. And in a viciously no context way, that is true. I'm not going to sugarcoat what I saw. Like Mason Rudolph, significantly is probably a strong word, but it was clear that Mason Rudolph had a better day today than Will Levis did. Now, did Levis have a better day than he had yesterday? Yes. Did they all have a better day than they had yesterday? Yes. But was it clear that Mason had the best day and then Will had the best day and then Malik the worst day? That was the case today. And so, and I was talking to PK about this afterwards, in trying to put our finger on how you assess him this week. Was it bad? No. But we talked to some of the coaches yesterday about like a year 2 leap. And we talk a lot this offseason about how, a full offseason for Will Levis, he's got NFL experience under his belt. Year 2 leaps for quarterbacks tend to be a significant thing. Like they come in guns a-blazing and sometimes they look like completely different guys. Can Will Levis be that? Yes. Was that the case? Was that what we saw from him this week? In my opinion, not really. It wasn't worse than it was. And you could argue it maybe a tinge better than what I saw from practice Will Levis in 2023. Sure. But was it like a year 2 leap? Like, oh, here we go. Here's a guy. Not really. Now, JT, I want you to speak to that. And then I want to explain not really a devil's advocate argument in his defense, but kind of the context you're not going to get on these shows that are going to take this and run with it and make it very clickbaity and very angry in June for no reason. Some context that required. But first, the 2 days you were there, JT, is that kind of where you're at on Will Levis, or did you see something different?
I think the context for me is that, looking back at what the second round of OTAs Will Levis was and looking at what a minicamp Levis was, is still a guy who is, like he said, weirdly tweaking with things because he's weird. And, with no pads, like it's going to come down to the biggest thing here. I think we can have a lot better discussion about Will Levis, the quarterback, when the pads go on and when we're going full speed. Like right now, you're looking at things that should not look exactly right, because this is, if there were any time in an NFL season to tinker with these things and things not look quite right for a quarterback, I think right now is exactly the spot. There's not, you shouldn't always have to be your 100%, right? There are always things that you can work on, and working on those things is not going to, have the best results come in May and June. I'd rather him, have these up and down days, and then when we get to training camp, start to see that put together. So because he's not putting it together now when there's no pads on is not a huge concern for me. But if we get into a week or two of training camp and we're still seeing the same up and downs and tweaks and mechanics, and that's what we're still hearing from the coaching staff and from Levis himself, that's when you can start to feel a little bit more concerned about Levis taking that year 2 jump to being a more productive quarterback.
I agree completely. And that's essentially that's one of the 2 very big contextual elements of this that matter. And that's essentially what I told the PK. I said, listen, like today on June 6th, is that super concerning to me? Not really. But if it's August 17th and this is what it looks like, then I'm going to have some significant questions. I'm going to have some real concerns. And along the lines of tweaking, like that's where I really feel like we don't have enough information. I want to know more, because if he had really, or one of his coaches had really come out full throated with their chest and been like, listen, he is working on some stuff right now. It is all for the better. It's to improve. It is things that are necessary. It's this with his mechanics or his arm angle or his stance, his footwork, whatever it is. If they'd come out and been like, he's going, it's like many things in life, I equate it to golf. And like when I'm trying to learn a new club, or I'm trying to, I usually hit a draw. I'm trying to learn how to hit a fade. In anything that you do in life, you can apply this to. When you try something new, when you're doing something a different way than you know how to do it, there is significant, you got to figure it out. There's trial and error. There are going to be some learning curve elements to getting up to speed and being as good as you once were. I'm not saying that's the case. And then that's the, that's why Will Levis was bad this week. No, but is that a possibility? Yeah, totally. I mean, they alluded to him going through a number of changes and trying some new things. And so that's going to result in some passes being thrown a little bit behind or being sailed or being low. And Kenneth brings up the other thing in here, talking about the timing, going back to the timing in the comments. He says timing and ball placement. A play that sticks in my mind is a play that was a touchdown. He threw a pass way late behind Hopkins, but Hopkins bailed him out by reaching behind him to grab it and then scored. I know the play that you're talking about, Kenneth, that is a decent example of the kind of thing I'm talking about. Another thing from today's training camp, one of the plays that ended up being a touchdown was a wide open Chig lined up in the slot, runs up the seam. It was a touchdown, but it was a little bit late, a little bit underthrown and a little bit behind him. Had to kind of contort his body and turn around mid-run to make the catch, but he was so wide open it didn't matter. And that's there were elements of today that really, I think, attested to Brian Callahan scheming these cats up. He's getting these cats open because there was a lot of really open looks. The execution of those open looks was hit or miss, but these guys were getting open. And so that's good, but like this pass to Chig would not have been a touchdown. It may not have been a completion if he had anybody in his vicinity when the ball was thrown his way. And so you take that into account, you take the tinkering into account, you take into account, like Callahan said in that video we just showed, hey, he is doing things right now that he may be doing for the first time, executing plays that he just learned for the first or second time, the timing of which he either doesn't have down pat yet, or I'm still like, he doesn't know it yet. And I'm having to tell him, okay, here's when you do this, here, then, where, and why. Like I'm giving him the detailed notes, the 401 class as we go. And so you're seeing the learning process, not the finished product. That all of those things may very well be the case. And to some extent, I think they are. But it's really impossible for us to say how much of an impact that is, I think. And it's impossible for us to completely dismiss the fact that it was not a year two leap kind of week. It was underwhelming in that regard. And so that's something to at least, I don't think it's something to panic over. Again, it's June 6th. Let's get to August 6th before we start to really have this conversation in earnest. But it is something to keep an eye on. And I'm curious to see, as he, like you said, has the next 6 weeks to get it in his body and in his mind, really knowing something like the back of his hand. When you had to take Spanish in high school, I think you may have got, even if you got to a point where you felt like you could speak in Spanish, you had to sit there and really think about it. Like, you learn a new language. It takes a while before it becomes second nature, before you know it like the back of your hand. I'd imagine it's exactly the same when you're having to learn a new offense. And even when you know it, you don't really know it until you stack where you bank reps. And so let's let him get to that point before we start to full blown freak out.
Yeah, I think the last little piece of that is something that we also heard, I think, either from Brian Callahan or his offensive coordinator, Nick Holtz, earlier this week, in the fact that, the things where, Will Levis isn't exactly acting on instinct yet, right? It's still just this very much learning period for him. We're still installing.
Mechanical.
It's not, the install has happened, but it's not fully in everybody's system yet. And that's what you're working through during these OTAs and mini camps. And that's what he's going to continue to work on. And so, yeah, we should wait for all judgments, I think, on most of these players until we get to that training camp. But it is an interesting look inside this, I guess you could call a quarterback battle that really isn't, because I think Mason Rudolph, that's kind of why they brought him in there, because if things were to not work out, that you should be glad that you have a guy like Mason Rudolph waiting in the wings, who is having stringing together good practices and is
hang on. Brian Callahan said today that it's a quarterback competition, Malik or Mason Rudolph. We don't know yet.
Exactly, right? Yes.
We're going to find out because
Correct.
that's true.
And maybe that's why he's stringing those days together. Mason Rudolph better have like 4 or 5 good days. Otherwise, here comes Malik. So
I'm going to allow Tyler Boyd to transition us here. And this clip from him is on the topic of what he has seen from Will Levis from a development and improvement standpoint, even in just this spring session so far.
You talking about Will? Yeah, I think it's a learning process for everybody. You know, it's not just him. You know, he's a second-year guy. Even the receivers, hot-bred, they still got to learn offense. You know, that's what I think the good addition is with me. You know, I can kind of help them guys on the field. You know, we got a great receivers coach in Tyke, but, you know, you might brain fart a little bit and you might not know what you're doing. You know, and the good thing is I'm here. You know, I can kind of navigate guys on the field and tell them what they got. You know, so it's kind of a win-win, you know, for guys that's learning while I'm out there, you know, because I'm used to the offense. I know exactly how he wants it done and how it ran. So I think it just helped guys just progress.
How much
faster.
is he?
JT, let's throw up the Tyler Boyd cut up from yesterday and go ahead and transition here to some skill position guys. And here on your screen, again, if you're with us live on YouTube, this is your opportunity to see in cinematic slow motion Tyler Boyd at work at yesterday's mandatory mini camp. If you're not watching and just listening, now is the heat. Oh, I know. The cleats are strong. The toe tap is strong. If you are just listening, it's time to tune in to the visual portion of today's show because we got a lot of show and tell for you. Skill positions, as advertised, we don't have to spend a ton of time on the main line guys. I think Tyler Boyd has looked as advertised out there. I think DeAndre Hopkins is still DeAndre Hopkins. I think with Calvin Ridley, of note, he on Tuesday, right in the bubble was Tuesday. He went out, as we talked about on Tuesday, early during 7-on-7s with something. We don't know. He hobbled maybe too strong, but he walked gingerly out of the bubble. And then the last 2 days on Wednesday and Thursday while we were there outside, he has been a almost full participant, a part of like 7-on-7s and team situational drills, 11s, all of those things. But during individual and during stretching, he's been kind of in and out a little bit. I think, again, whatever he's dealing with, whether it's just like a tweaked hamstring or a hip, Achilles, whatever, it's very minor. He's still out there at practice. He's just kind of managing it a little bit, but he has been out there and he has been as advertised. So no concern from those top 3 guys. We have talked about Treylon Burks to death. We can go ahead and show the Treylon Burks cut up, JT. Big, fast receiver. He's out there doing big, fast things. A lot of narrative talk about him. We will not continue to beat it to death. If you want Treylon Burks talk, go to the last 2 or 3 episodes in a row. We have talked about him a lot, but he has looked like the guy that you want him to be out there on the practice field. He's big, he's fast. If he can just put it together and be a really nice 4th option for the team, who is also maybe a gunner or a returner on special teams, I think he'd be fantastic, by the way, as a returner on special teams. I would very much like to see them try that. Like, why not? See what happens. I think get the ball in the big, fast guy's hand, let him go be big and fast and run dudes over like he did in college. Maybe that's a good way to get the juices flowing for him and learn to truck some dudes, because we've seen him do it a lot when he was wearing Arkansas crimson or Arkansas. Is it red? Probably crimson's probably a sacrilege for them being an SEC, but yeah, regardless,
a little bit
sorry, Arkansas
maroonish
fans.
Red, probably like a light
it's
maroon.
kind of, yeah, it's not Georgia red. I don't know what Arkansas fans, what do you call your red? Let us know. So that's Treylon. Let's show Chig and Josh Wiley real quick. A couple of clips from them at camp. We talked about this on Tuesday, JT. Wiley carving out a role for himself, I think, in this offense. And it's going to be interesting to see the way that they use their tight ends in this Callahan offense. Would not shock me if the size is the deal breaker here for Josh Wiley being more involved with their deployments, especially when they, maybe when they get out there with just a 1 tight end set. He may be the guy that they want to be an inline seam weapon option, a dual option in that way, just because, again, with Chig, fantastic as a yard after catch guy, good route runner, all of those things, not really the big body inline blocker type. Josh Wiley more in that mold, and you can see him here running across your screen. Sneaky good route runner, sneaky fantastic red zone target. I think if you get the best of him, he may be the biggest target on the team just in terms of wingspan, listed at 6'7", 240 or something like 250. big old boy, hard to miss him. Just got to throw the ball in his general vicinity. He should be able to catch the ball. So that's a quarterback-friendly target in the red zone. And then finally, JT, the guy that deserves some flowers, the guy that apparently the internet just can't get enough of, because every time we post a cut-up of him to YouTube Shorts or TikTok or Instagram or Twitter, people eat it up. It explodes. And so we appreciate the numbers, but like it's kind of strange because it's Jaquan Jackson, 6th round rookie pick out of Tulane. I will say this about the young man. The young man has looked the part out there on the practice field, at least in shorts. Again, let's see what happens when the pads come on. But here's what I'll say about him. He's doing some things in practice, and you see here on the screen some fantastic footwork. Today he was doing the ladder drill, was vocally impressing his teammates. We heard them vocally impressed by him doing some footwork ladder drill things today. He's got some of that some of that Kyle Phillips practice energy to him. And if he can just not be breakable like Kyle Phillips and be the element on special teams that they wanted Kyle Phillips to be when he was drafted a couple years ago, then I think he could be like that kind of guy. Now, I'm not crazy about him as a draft prospect. That doesn't mean he can not be a good NFL player. I'm struggling to speak here because I don't know how to parse my words on Jaquan Jackson.
I would say that
he is impressing me so far.
Yes.
The bar was set extremely low. I am willing to go in with an open mind to training camp to see what he's got.
I would just like to say that, I don't think myself or you or even, maybe someone like Zach or Stoney over at Football and Other F Words did a lot of digging on a guy like Jaquan Jackson.
No.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
But the things that we knew is that, his ability to be a fluid route runner and be able to play in that slot position is something that's very useful. And the kick returning is also a very big reason of why I think that they drafted him. Derek, even in the comments, says his height bothers me. And I think that that's fair. There are some height concerns there with a guy like him. However,
what did Kyler Murray say the other day? Greg Dortch, if he was 6'3", top 5 receiver in the league.
Exactly.
Jaquan Jackson, if he was just 6'3", guys.
Top 10? Then again,
rookie, top 10 rookie.
I was going to say, like, there are things that he's doing in practice that have surprised me as well. His ability on, back at OTAs, the second round of OTAs, to kind of climb the ladder on some Will Levis throws that may have been a little too high for him was impressive. He's been making contested catches that we really didn't think he would be able to make, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's doing these things that we didn't think at his size and his skill could be able to do, and yet he's doing them here. And now, like you said, it's in shorts, and everybody, as Callie says, can look really good in shorts. But when we put the pads on and it gets physical against this super aggressive and physical cornerback class in room, I think that may be where we start to see a little bit of that divide. But for right now, he's doing a lot of things that have surprised me and a lot of people.
The general in the comments asks, does Jackson have as good of hands as I do? I will say I watched Jackson have at least one drop today, and I had one drop today. So we're pretty much on par, if I had to be honest with you. I think we're pretty equivalent in the. Sorry, say that again?
That's how statistics work right there.
Right, exactly. So I probably, if I had declared this year, probably also would have been a 6th round pick. I'd imagine we're probably the same age. How old is Jaquan Jackson? Let's find that out because we might be the same age as well.
Got to be like 22, 23. Something
he's probably a little bit younger than me, but let's see. He is 24. We're the same age.
Oh, there you go.
I am 6 months older than him. So we're basically the same. How tall is Jaquan Jackson? Wait, this is a funny thing. Maybe we're the same person if you really think about it.
Yes.
Besides me being very white and him not being white.
Derek thinks that you're too short to get drafted.
He's 5'9", I'm 5'8", so he's got an inch on me. I've got 6 months of age on him, and we both had one drop today. And okay, do with that information what you will. But in all seriousness, the general brings up the drop. It's a good segue for me to kind of unload my rough notes here from practice today, the parts we weren't allowed to film, the team periods. There was a section of today's practice when he was running with Malik Willis out there. Malik Willis, 4 throws Malik Willis had. 3 of them were to Jackson. One was a drop, a tough catch coming right at us at the sideline. He should have made the catch. Like one of the lesser plays I saw from Jackson this week. But then Willis had Jackson open running downfield and then down across the field, and both times just whiffed on him. Like a tough day for Willis today. Besides this completion to me, I want to talk a little bit, use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the way that they operated today. It was a lot of situational stuff, which was like interesting, but I don't know how. I'm not an NFL coach, so I'm sure there's a rhyme and reason to it. I don't know exactly. I was talking to Braden about this, how useful it is of their time to be doing this kind of stuff. So it was a lot of on air, moving with urgency, but not actually throwing the ball, and not at all times moving with urgency. So like they were doing it was 2 play sequences, and it wasn't about the actual play 1 or play 2 as much as it was the transition between play 1 and play 2. So one scenario was a 4th and 1 situation, where you make a play, get into 4th and 1, you hurry up to the line and run a 4th and 1 hurry up situation, right? One was a questionable catch situation where they would mime out, walk through a downfield pass and catch that was a catch that was questionable whether it was in bounds. And then the entire sideline would yell, that was a catch, that was a catch. The offense runs up, tries to get a play off in a hurry before the other team has a chance to review and challenge the play, right? That was one of the situations. They did 30 seconds left, 2 plays, a 2-play sequence where it was a hashtag establish the run, inside zone look, hand off the ball, hurry up, get back on the line, and then a pass to the sidelines that is intended to either be an overthrow out of bounds, throw away, or a toe tap or get out of bounds. And then the last one was kind of weird. 3rd and 1 in field goal range, trying to figure out whether or not you want to run the field goal unit out there. And I think just getting the timing of that down. But it was a lot of stuff that, like, very new team, new coaching staff. That's what we're doing today. We're just going to get in our bodies these individual, unique situations. But it was all about the 2 plays at a time. So that's what today was. And that's kind of all I have to say on the topic of the skill position guys. Stoked to see them once we get into pads. That's the ultimate thing. And not that, I really need to see Calvin Ridley in pads. No, I need to see Calvin Ridley going up against a DB that's in pads. That's what I want to see. Show me the physicality. Show me these guys going up against Titans. We're going to talk about this in a minute. Plenty of press coverage to come down the pike. Let's see some of that. Let's see them get some pushback and see how a guy like Jaquan Jackson, let's see how he handles some of the physicality back there.
Yeah, I agree with you. No, that's basically
notes?
all I had to say as well. A lot of different things that they were doing this past week between 3rd down and red zone looks and things like that are all necessary. And, maybe not the most sexy thing to watch and report on, but, are to have a successful team and to have a cohesive team, must be done.
Derek in the comments saying Easton is too short to get drafted. 5'8" is too short.
Greg Dortch is 5'8".
I was about to say, that's embarrassing for you that you are so wrong about this, right? Greg Dortch is 5'8". I'm old enough to remember Deuce Vaughn, 2023. Short King is like, what, 5'4"? How tall is Deuce Vaughn? Very small.
He's 5'4", 5'5". Trey Hodges Tomlinson, the
5'6", I believe.
5'7", I think.
Relative of LaDainian Tomlinson, nephew, I think. Yeah. So how dare you? I am more than I have multiple inches on the shortest recently drafted players. So
Darren Sproles,
wrong. Darren Sproles, Short King, exactly. Mine might not be as muscly or built as they are, but I am taller, and that's what matters. Okay, let's talk about some offensive line here. We got some offensive line cut-ups from today. A little Peter Skronsky, JC Latham duo get off action. Some slow-mo action coming at you on your screen here on the Hot Read podcast. We spoke to Radens yesterday, just kind of a recap on the scrum with him yesterday. He wants that. He said explicitly, I respect this. He's like, I want that starting right guard job. I'm working to get that job. I want it. He is now working at guard exclusively, which he appreciates, just being able to commit to that and learn under Bill Callahan, the guard position. He emphasized how it's nice this offseason not having to rehab his knee towards ACL in that Rams game late 2 seasons ago. Last year, dealing with the year after the ACL. Now he's the year after the ACL, which is the key year for all of these NFL athletes. And he's not had to rehab his knee all offseason, so he's much bigger. He feels much stronger. He says he's put on about 10 pounds. He looks it. We've talked about that. And he says he feels much stronger. Now, on the topic of JC Latham, who was at the podium today, this first clip was him crashing Brian Callahan's press availability, asking a question as a reporter, doing our jobs for us, asking about a potential trick play that may be coming his way this year. Let's evaluate the reaction from Brian Callahan. Do some psychoanalysis here.
Potentially with your, brand new drafted rookie, run like a tackle screen, utilize his speed and space, ability and space.
Do you want to give everything away now? Thanks, JC.
Okay, play it again though, because look at Brian Callahan's face. He is at most 85% joking. This is a man that there's a 10 to 15% part of him. He's like, JC, shut up, stop talking. Like you can see it, you could feel it in the way that he responds. You could feel it in the room. You hear in the background at one point Buck Rising. You're gonna hear him go, oh, there's something to this. This is not a bit that they are doing. Let's play that video one more time.
Potentially with your, brand new drafted rookie, run like a tackle screen, utilize his speed and space, ability and space.
Do you want to give everything away now?
No, play this last part. Thanks,
JC.
Thanks, JC. Yeah. So just go ahead and everybody mentally bookmark this, because on November 12th, they're going to try it and it may or may not work. And you're going to reference back. We were warned. They told us this was going to happen with their body language. He then later, I don't have the clip of it, but he came back to the podium when it was his time to speak. And he was like, guys, I was joking. That was comedy on my part.
For legal reasons.
Bit of a comedian myself.
This is a joke.
For legal reasons, I could not have been more kidding about this. But he was essentially saying, we will not run this play this year. Now, he wants it. And he was even giving his new teammate, Devondre Sweat, crap. We were like, Devondre scored a touchdown in college. And he was like, yeah, well, anybody could have scored that touchdown. That was easy. I do the cool things. And he talked about how in high school, he scored a tackle leak, tight end leak situation touchdown that he thinks was of much higher difficulty. Now to some actual lines of questioning here. I asked JC about what we've heard from his coaches. I think we first heard about it on one of the Bussin' episodes a couple of weeks ago. And then this week we heard it from yesterday, Nick Holtz talking about how they've kind of been having to drag JC Latham off the practice field at times. It's like, this dude's out there working by himself at 3 p.m. We wrapped practice hours ago. It's about to rain. Get this dude off the field. Rand Carthen looking out from his office window saying, what is my first round tackle doing? Get him stop. Get him. He's unsupervised. He's going to hurt himself. He's out there practicing by himself because he's just about that grind apparently. And I'm like, JC, tell us about this work ethic. How long you've been working like this? He gave an awesome answer. Here's what he had to say.
I think I was in 10th grade or 11th grade when they moved me from right to left. And it was like, not right to left. When they moved from D-line to O-line, and I was a top 10 defensive player in the country, but we just lost 3 linemen to a crazy incident. 2 of them tore their ACL, 1 MCL playing basketball. It was insane. So they moved me and Tyler Booker to play tackle. We were D linemen, 2 top D linemen in our class at the time. And yeah, I like to compete and I like to win, but obviously I'm playing a whole different position I've never played before at IMG at a high level. So, I'm talking to the coach and I'm just working with him every single day after practice. And then conveniently, I'm watching a video on Kobe Bryant, and he's just expressing the fact that, he felt like he kind of arrived in basketball a little bit later. But if, he worked out twice a day, then by a year span, he'd get better 2 years worth of work in 1 year span. And then, that's what he said he did. So in 5 years of being in the NBA, he'd have 10 years of work. So I just kind of took that to heart. If I did my work on my own, then outside of the practice, I'll get better twice as fast. So since I was in high school, that's something that I've always kind of adopted to always do. Did it in high school, Alabama, and out here. So.
Man, get you a tackle with a little Mamba mentality. I love that. I eat that up. I think that, and this is not new. This dude has everything between the ears that you want, not just in a tackle, not just in a lineman, in any player on your team. But to have such an important position now be manned by a guy that if he fails, it is going to be because of injury or physical shortcomings. It is not going to be because he does not work for it. It is not going to be because he does not have the right mindset, that he is afraid to grind, that he is afraid to put in all the work necessary to make it happen. If he fails, it's not going to be for lack of trying. That's what JC Latham is. It's super, super clear that's the kind of person he is. He's demonstrating it not just in the way that he's talking or the way that his coaches are talking about him, but literally in his actions. His actions are speaking louder than the words here. The dude is out there practicing all the time. He is constantly working on getting better. He is impressing his coaches and teammates at every turn. I don't know how you can be any happier with this guy in spring, in early summer. We need the pads to come on. We need to see him do the thing. But so far, it is A+++ returns on J.C. Latham.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about all the time, you know, your offensive tackles not having aura. That's how you know they're good. Well, what about an offensive tackle who with massive aura? Like, it seems like that's what JC
You have to be
has.
one or the other. You have to be like Taylor Lewan level of aura, which, you know, he's not Taylor Lewan like Taylor is, not that personality or anything, but like massive levels of aura or no aura. And I think him and Joe Alt are opposite ends. Like Joe Alt, no aura, saltine cracker of a man who I mean that in the most loving way possible. But you know, you got a dude when that's just your meat and potatoes guy, corn-fed son of a gun playing left tackle.
Like
Alternatively,
Peter Skoronski is like a left
1,000%. Yes.
No aura.
The Titans' left side, there's enough aura for two people in one guy and no aura in the other guy. That's the way that they're going to operate. And I think it's a good pairing. So that is awesome from him. One more clip from J.C. Latham. We asked him about his new teammate, Devondre Sweat, who's not been out there. Asked him about, hey, have you spoken to him? What's the frustration level like? Do you sympathize with him? Here's what he had to say.
Tonight, yeah, I mean, there's obviously a level of frustration. You know, we're all competitors. We all want to showcase what we are and what we can do. But we just talked about just being patient, doing what you have to do, and just letting it hit naturally. You don't want to force something, force yourself to come back and, you know, end up injuring it more. So yeah, we talk and try to, you know, every weekend I try to hold something at my house or somebody else is doing something. We all try to go out together and just build that chemistry off the field as a group, just as a group, a team. So, you know, we're always there for one another. So, but yeah, I think he'll be pretty good.
Glory Sports in the comments saying Skoronski is negative aura. They cancel each other out. That's what it is. Skoronski's a negative 100 aura boost. Latham is a plus 100 aura boost. Ultimately, the Titans' left side of the line, 0 aura, just the way that the Lord intended it. Okay. We can move on to defense here, and a couple of comments on the press coverage the Titans are going to be running this year. Let me start with just talking about DBs in general. Caleb Farley had a chance to speak with him today. The media did for the first time in a while. He's out there more on the practice field than we've seen him in a long time. He's dealt with a lot of adversity, from multiple injuries and setbacks to tragically losing his father in the house fire that happened last year. He's been through a ton, and he was just exuding gratefulness, gratuity to everything that he has been through, and was constantly thanking God for getting him through a lot of really tough things. He said to us, I don't know if you guys really understand, like, I didn't know if I was going to play football again. And so he is back out here playing football. He seems to be very happy to be doing so. Whether or not he turns into something is yet to be seen, but impossible not to be happy for him. And it seems like he's trending in the right direction to get on the field, at least for the first time in a long time. So that is awesome. Now, one more guy. You want to talk about a rookie of the week situation? Gabe Judy Lawley. He's been brought up on a couple occasions, and for good reason, by various folks on different shows in this media market. Rookie, undrafted, out of Tennessee. Some epic pandering here by the Titans, taking a Vols DB who, frankly, was not awesome in college, and that entire Vols defense secondary, not awesome in college. And yet, Gabe Judy Lawley, to his credit, and I've DM'd him a little bit on Twitter. Seems like a nice guy. Seems like a guy that's driven. He's looked really good out there, man. And he didn't play a lot. Stoney was talking about this on Twitter. Did not play a ton of press coverage in college. Now is adapting really well and really quickly to doing that. And part of that is because you've got a couple of guys out there not doing everything. You know, you don't have L'Jarius out there doing everything this week. And so he's been in there doing a lot in lieu of some other guys not out there, and looking impressive in the process. He's got the physical requirements to be a dude. So you just, you got to see if he can work it out between the ears, if he can figure it out in this scheme. But so far things are really positive. And if I had to guess today, I think like he may make the team. He may be your cornerback 5 or 6. And that's really, really cool for a guy that, DM'd me out of the blue when they were doing the local pro day for the Titans pre-draft. And he's like, hey, I had a great day today talking. I spoke on the side with Chris Harris, and I spoke on the side with Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, and they really seemed to appreciate like what I was doing out there. And he's like, can you give me some pub on that? And I'm like, I'm happy to do that, man. Let's amplify this story, hoping the best for you. And then he becomes a Titan, and now he's impressing at Titans minicamp as a UDFA. Very cool story. Hoping to continue to see a lot of cool things from him in the summer later on. Now, as for press coverage, Denard Wilson yesterday at the podium, first thing, gave some really fantastic comments on just how much the Titans are going to be pressing, just how effective he thinks they can be with the room of cornerbacks, the DBs that they have at their disposal. They have obviously tailored this group. They brought in Chido Awuzie. They've brought in L'Jarius Sneed. They have Roger McCreary on the roster. They go and they draft Jarvis Brownlee Jr., an absolute dog despite his physical shortcomings, the kind of guy that wants to jam you on the line of scrimmage. It has been a mentality of, how about we just never let an opposing receiver ever get off the line of scrimmage? What if that's how he played football? Which is a fun way to play football and a decent idea, and that's the way they built this room. He went on and on for a couple different questions yesterday, and I wish I had these clips, but I don't. Talking about how I think pressing is important. That's going to be kind of our default. It's going to be very different from, and Titans fans, how many times in the last 4, 5, 6, 7+ years have you seen on a 3rd and 2 in enemy territory, Titans DB on the X receiver, it's 3rd and 2, and he's playing 8 yards off the guy, and oh, look, there's an easy first to turn and catch, basically falls forward for an uncontested first down. And then you pull your hair out and you're bald now because the Titans are frustrating you. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And so at least in that regard, that is a very good thing. And maybe they get beat over the top a handful more times. Maybe there's some individual glaring losses by guys on some occasion when they're going up against some really good cornerback, very good receivers. That is the nature of the beast. That is the trade-off. That's the boom bust potential when you play more press coverage. But the league is trending in this direction. We are seeing more press in general. The Titans, the past couple of years, I'm working on getting my hands on the actual rates. I'm going to probably have them by our next episode, but we know, just watching them, they have been near the bottom of the league the past couple of years in their press man coverage. They have to have been. And when they do it, they have not done it super effectively. I think that's going to change this year. And we've got some clips from Chido Awuzie, just asking him today about playing press, the comfortability, the excitement. Here are a couple of clips from him on what he had to say there.
Ever since I've been in the league, it's been press coverage. So maybe it's not something new for me. And I know it's not something new for the corners in our room. We're excited for the challenge, and that's what we train, doing all offseason is press coverage, doing our cuts from press coverage. So, yeah, we're excited to be able to match up against some of these guys this year.
Does it take a certain kind of group to be able to pull that off effectively at a high rate?
Oh, for sure, at a high rate. But I'd be it's the NFL. I'm pretty sure every corner in the NFL can press.
Right.
But certain corners can probably press consistently or have a better technique, and that's something that we're working on every day to be one of those guys.
Something new.
Well, I'm not going to say that we're not.
No, keep playing. Let's play all these real quick.
Going to play all. I'm not going to say we're not going to only play press. That's scheme stuff that I'm not the one making the calls. Obviously, I'm going to be playing the calls that's given to us, and certain looks may tell us that we have to press, and certain looks may tell us we have to be off. But no matter what, we're going to be aggressive. That's the only thing we're going to be is aggressive. No matter if we're off, if we're in zone, if we're in man. So, yeah, we're not going to spill all the stuff that we're going to do this year. But Denard. So again, it's my first year, so I don't know if that's going to be the case. Even though he said it, who knows what's going to happen? So I don't want to get into like any game plan thing or anything. Maybe like the week of a game,
How's that change? Okay, pause it there. Now, as Kenneth says in the comments, a little scarring. I can see some mental scarring here. He says, I don't need I need to, see it on the field before I believe another coordinator telling us they will press and they don't. I get that. And I like, as Cheeto said it there at the end, maybe we will, maybe we won't. We'll see. Like it's early. Let's get to the game planning of the week of and see what happens. But I will say, I think there absolutely should be more reason to believe this idea because of the track record that we've seen from Denard Wilson, the way that his defenses have operated in the past, the success that he's had with press coverage, the consistency with which, unprompted, he came out of the gates with Tennessee Titans talking about we're going to be aggressive, we're going to be in their face, we're going to press, and then add on top of it the fact that it is clear and obvious, the design, the intelligent design of this roster from a DB standpoint this year has been, let's go get some dogs that can put some receivers in the dirt and not let them get off the line. We're going to press. You don't go and you draft Jarvis Brownlee. You don't go and add L'Jarius Sneed and Chido Awuzie if you're going to be playing a lot of soft zone. Like that's not, you got the wrong dudes for that. If that's your plan, that's a bad plan. So I'm super excited to see these things change, and I get Kenneth wanting to wait and see, but I think you are going to wait and you're going to see.
Yeah, I think I'm right there as well. It'd be a blindside reaction from me if Denard Wilson comes in here and just does the things that he hasn't preached before. Like there's no way that when he talked about having an aggressive, you know, preaching to his guys to be aggressive on this defense. He talked about it not just on the field, but like as a mindset that you live by, like from a day in and day out, you know, or just whether it be on the field or off the field. And if that guy who is preaching this aggressive mindset that he apparently has for almost everybody in the defensive locker room, to not come out and try to play that with the guys he has at his disposal, that would be pretty surprising for me.
I agree. So one last thing, 2 more clips here to share, and then we are out of here on a Thursday afternoon. We spoke to Harold Landry. Honor Landry yesterday was at the podium, and we asked him, hey, and many of you will probably remember this, right before Mike Vrabel was canned, we were speaking in the locker cleanout day with guys when it was still up in the air whether or not he was going to return. Some of the returning veterans that were cleaning out their locker, and Harold Landry and Jeffrey Simmons, we were asking them about what would it be like if Vrabel wasn't around anymore. And Landry in particular was very complimentary of Vrabel, very adamant in saying, I can't imagine a Tennessee Titans team being on a Tennessee Titans team without Mike Vrabel around. He said that, and then Mike Vrabel was canned like 48 hours later. So we asked him yesterday, hey, so how have you adjusted now that that's the reality? He said you couldn't imagine it. You don't have to imagine it. It's here. What do you think?
I'm not really going to compare, I feel like, this year to last year, but, I'll just say that, I feel like the energy right now is at an all-time high, whether that's in meetings or on the field. There's a lot of excitement in the building, with all the new faces. And, like I've been saying, too, is I just feel like we have so much talent, and that's what I feel like that excitement is around with what, the potential that we have to do this year out there on the field. But no, I would just say the energy is at an all-time high, and we're just focused on, getting all the details down, you know what I'm saying, and going out there and stacking days.
Very cool to continue to hear from a guy that's not usually like a big rah-rah hype, lean into the narrative kind of guy, to be like, hey, the energy around here is it's at a all-time high. It's sky high. We've noticed that, and to hear it from even a guy like this who I think Harold Landry is the longest tenured Titan at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a shift of perspective, because we did point out to him yesterday, hey, you are now officially the longest tenured Titan on this team. We kind
of unked him a little bit yesterday, didn't we? That was tough.
he has reached unk status on this Tennessee Titans team, which I think if you ask somebody before the season last year, hey, Harold Landry is going to be an unk next year. Like, you'd be like, what?
Yeah. Who? Huh? All right. Last clip here is, sorry, anything else?
No, I was just going to say, it's cool to see these guys kind of resonate with what we felt as well, both being there and just what we've heard from this team, that the energy is it's good this time of year, which is, I think, is a different kind of feel from what we had last year, right? It's like the energy is always nice during this year, but there are still very many questions about what is going on. And this year, when the energy is supposed to be high, it is. And there really is no downfall. And of course, we're waiting for the shoe to drop, because in the NFL, it always does. But it's nice to see those guys also resonate the same.
Something will go wrong. It is a matter of when, not if. Okay, that's a positive note for us to end on here. Well, here's an actual positive note for us. Actually, I'm going to turn it into
gaps.
I'm gonna turn it into sort of maybe a negative note, but it's a good quote. It's from Denard Wilson yesterday, talking about the pass rush and needing to dominate the inside of the offensive line just as much, if not more, than getting sufficient edge pressure.
Well, I think we talk a lot about DBs, but the game is won and lost in the trenches. And the biggest thing is like we talk about edge rush. You really want to dominate the offensive line through the A and B gaps. Because when you dominate the offensive line through the A and B gaps, there's no step-up lane for the quarterback. And if no step-up lanes, and if we go back to the corners being connected at the top of the route with no step-up lane, where is it for the quarterback to throw?
Good answer. Here's the glass half empty. Here's the negative spin. Your A and B gap guys are Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, and they're not out there at practice right now. That's not ideal. Here's the positive spin. your A and B guys are Jeffrey Simmons and Devondre Sweat, and those guys are pretty good at playing football. So as long as they're out there playing football when it's time to play some football, that's going to be you're going to be able to do that. That's that again, more intelligent roster design. Those are the dudes that are going to be able to do the thing. And if you're wanting to dominate A B gaps, that you got two dudes that they have a doctorate in that. They are masters of their craft in that department. So that's really all I had to say on that. I think you're going to see a lot of pressure. The edge rushers on this team leave a little bit to be desired in terms of not having a top guy. You don't have your stud dude right now, but you've got some big boy names in the middle that maybe can become a force multiplier for the entire pass rush. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Went a little bit long. You have to factor in some Easton catching football from an NFL player discussion in there. Very cool day. Again, still, I just checked. Titans still have not released the footage. Release the footage, Titans. Cowards. I dare you to put it on the internet. Just not the drop part. Thank you. Okay, we'll be back on. Shut up. On Tuesday, we'll be back. JT and I will be at OTA's last day. The media is available to or allowed to be out there on Tuesday afternoon. So we'll be doing a show that afternoon, recapping the last of live action from Tennessee Titans players that the media gets to lay their eyes on for 4 or 5 weeks until we get to the end of July and training camp gets kicked off. So looking forward to that. Appreciate everybody tuning in with us live. If you did, if you're not watching live, consider watching live. It's awesome. We typically go on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons around 4:30 p.m. Central Standard God's time. So check it out. Oh, Kenneth asking, here's an important question. What's the plan for the Hot Read podcast after OTAs? Are we going on vacation? No, I am
hot dogs and tacos.
Right. that video, that pod will be fun when we're out of ideas, but we've got ideas banked, some topics to get into. Don't worry. This show will continue at least 2 times a week throughout the summer. We will find things and people to talk to, interesting topics. We'll have a good time. Maybe we'll do a mailbag or two, some interaction stuff with you guys that are loyal listeners. We will be back. I've got a vacation in there, but I will still be doing the show from wherever I'm at. So, the grind does not stop here on the Hot Read podcast. We'll be back on Tuesday. Until then, for producer JT, I'm your host, Easton Freeze. This has been the Hot Read podcast. Have a great weekend.